2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us. What kind of family system am I in, and how does it affect me? Welcome to the Real Talk Recovery Podcast with the Therapy Brothers.
We're brothers, we're therapists, and we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery.
Well, being your brother, Tyler.
This will be an interesting one.
Yeah, we are family. We've been in the same system.
Yeah, we've turned out a little bit differently too. Coming from the same systems,
which is fascinating.
Be an interesting discussion just to talk between the two of us, but we won't do that. We'll talk with in general terms about other people too today.
Yeah. So, well, you're down to a few weeks here, aren't you?
We are. We got a wedding in just over a month today as we're filming this, and this is a little bit belated, but a shout out to a couple of people. My daughter Brinley's birthday is today, so shout out to Bryn. She rarely listens. Occasionally she slips in as her older sisters are listening to the podcast, but then also a shout out to our youngest brother Rex, who's the wild man of the family.
It's a big day for the Patrick family.
It is.
Yeah. May 22nd. So happy birthday to Bryn and Rex.
Happy birthday, Rue.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of Rex, our brother and your daughter and, our families, let's get into family systems a little bit and talk a little bit why we want to talk about this. So
yeah, you bet. We were just kind of, I was hanging out with you this weekend, Brannon, and we were talking just a little bit about just something called the family circumplex model, which is what we're going to walk through in our podcast today with you as our listeners. And we were just talking a little bit about how the family system that we grow up in is so pivotal to the way that we come to view the world, the rules that we learn to accept in life, our life experience and our learning. And sometimes it's so all around us that we don't even realize how pivotal it is or how much impact it has on our development.
I think it really helps to get educated about things like this so that you can put words to it. So it's not so automatic, so you can understand yourself better, your family better, and understand what are the roots of your shame. Why are you the way you are in many ways? And so when we talk about this, I think it's really fascinating. When I first learned this, Tyler, to be honest with you, I never thought what kind of family system I was in. And then I learned it and I was like, oh, I can totally see our family, at least from my perspective.
Yeah.
And it was really enlightening to me. So do you want to just dive right into the circumplex model?
Yeah, this is kind of a fun topic when we teach it. Like, I don't know how it goes for you, Brown, but when I teach to my groups, people kind of get into it because it's like one of those, it's almost like one of those quizzes you can take online, like what is my attachment style or what is this, or it's kind of a fun thing. But as our listeners are listening today, you're probably going to have some fun thinking about it from a couple of lenses. Okay. Think about it from the home you were raised in, and then also think about it in the context of the home you're currently living in or developing in your own relationship or your marriage, right? And so the family circumplex model has been around for a very long time, and it looks at two different elements of family living in like a cross section. So imagine that one scale is going up and down on the page, and the other scale is going, side to side on the page, and there's an intersection with
there's a vertical axis and a horizontal axis. We're not mathematicians here.
Yeah, X and Y axis.
Yeah, there's an X and Y axis, and it crosses each other.
And
right?
it crosses over. And it doesn't matter which one you go with, but one axis is called family adaptability, and the other axis is called cohesion.
Yeah.
So with family adaptability, what we're looking at is, and what the theory is looking at is how open to change and influence is the family system itself. And then on the cohesion scale, what they're measuring is how close or connected are the members of the family with one another.
Yep.
Right.
And so with adaptability and with cohesion, there's a continuum. And across this continuum, your family probably, it falls somewhere across this continuum. And Tyler and I are going to break down the continuum for both. And as we talk, hopefully you can think about, okay, what are some things that indicate where my family is? So,
and then we'll get into talking a little bit about why that matters.
Yeah. So with adaptability, the two extremes, and we'll talk specifically about what these look like. But on one end of the continuum is rigidity, is you come from a rigid family system. On the other end of the continuum is chaos, or it's a chaotic family system. And then in between, closer to rigidity, is structure, and
between rigid and the center is structured, and between chaotic and the center
is flexibility.
Right.
So the healthiest of families are somewhere between structured and flexible. They're in the middle there. But let's talk first about kind of the extremes, Tyler. What are indicators of a rigid family system when it comes to adaptability?
So when you're looking at a rigid system, this is a family that has a really difficult time with change. They have a hard time oftentimes accepting new members into the family because there's certain rules, expectations, norms that need to be followed. And when a new person enters the family, it kind of causes waves. Think of it in terms of like when family discipline, a rigid family system is very structured. They're very like almost like military style with their follow through on punishment, discipline, that kind of stuff.
I think of the phrase "because I said so." So
yeah. Why do I have to do that?
Because I said so. I'm not actually listen to the child or understand their question or have a dialogue there. You know what? You butted up against me, and I am God. I am the king here. I dominate because I said so. So it's military. The rules are more important than the individual. The system, the family system, needs to be followed, and there's not negotiation, conversation, or anything like that. It just is.
Right.
That's a rigid family system. And I hate to say this, Tyler, but it's actually quite common.
It's really common, and something that you see, another way to identify this, it's really common with people is there's a certain value system that every family establishes. And with a very rigid family value system, anyone who starts to step outside of that value system, say someone who decides to leave the family's original faith, or someone who has an alternative form of sexuality, or someone who starts to use drugs or alcohol or something.
They're breaking the rules.
Like a lot of times the system itself doesn't want to tolerate that, and they're pretty quick to kind of,
they will oust.
They'll almost like oust they'll almost like oust the person because they don't know what else to do. And because they feel like the rules there's such a premium on rules that's kind of where the default setting goes. Right.
Right. All right. So let's jump over to the other side, way over on the other end, which is a chaotic family system. Then we'll talk about
the middle
structure and flexibility. So a chaotic family system is, believe it or not, equally as unhealthy in terms of teaching healthy attachment and things. A chaotic system is basically, there's no system. As a kid, mom and dad really aren't there. They stick you in front of a TV a lot. There's not rules. There's not bedtimes. You can do whatever you want. I think of the kid who just plays video games all day long and eats sugar constantly, because mom and dad don't really want to deal with the kid, and so they just do whatever they want. But it gets worse than that, though, Brannon, because that happens for a while, and then all of a sudden one day the parent decides that they're going to be structured and boundaried, and they're throwing the Xbox in the trash and destroying all the video games. Well, they're trying to shift more toward structure, but the child's like, whatever.
But there's also no consistency inside of that, and so it's like a lot of times the person inside of a chaotic family system has a hard time finding their footing because it always feels like they're walking on eggshells. Like, I don't know if today's the day that I get in trouble for drinking the last bit of milk, or if today's the day that it's okay for me to drink the last bit of milk that's in the house. Like whatever that is, because there's such a lack of consistency in the way that the boundaries are held, that it's almost like crazy making in some ways.
Yeah, my kids, Tyler, have told me that I like those rules. I please like set up that for us. And will you please stick to it? Yeah. And it's interesting hearing that from them. I think we lean a little more to the chaotic side than we do the rigid side. And so it's interesting hearing that from them, because the child feels safe. They feel like mom and dad care. There's some structure to my life and to things. So I feel more safe when there are some systems in place. And so a child does not like chaos. They don't like getting neglected, and those type of things.
Even if they push against the rules sometimes, one of the reasons why they continue to push sometimes is to try to find the limit. And
to test whether those rules are real. Yeah.
And it's interesting that you said that too, Brannon, that you're talking, you and your wife, you tend to lean somewhere between, the flexible, chaotic side. And I was going to say, I almost feel like me and my wife, we kind of lean somewhere in the middle between rigid and, on the structured side.
We need to mix our families together, and we'll hit that perfect middle point.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about those middle points for a minute, Brannon. Between the rigid and the center is called structured. And inside of this, the family system now allows a little bit more inflow and outgo of different information. They're a little bit more open to a change of rules, input from other family members, things like that. But there's still a lot of expectations. There's still a lot of guidelines and rules, but it's just not quite as rigid as that far outside rigid way of being, right?
Yep.
So you think of like, I remember being having a teacher in 6th grade named Mrs. A. Everyone thought that she was like really, really strict, but when you got to know her, what she really was just actually pretty boundaried, but there was also still a ton of warmth, and there was some level of flexibility. She was what I would consider a structured kind of a teacher for me.
Yep.
Because she did have some high expectations, but there was plenty of time when there was warmth and flexibility.
She called you Angel Boy too.
Yeah, she did. Yeah. I just I had her, Mrs. Andrew Weird, and
yeah, I had her too. She was a bit more rigid in my feelings. So, but I think that lends to, even in the same family systems, you have a different feeling from each child, right?
Yeah, the way that the child views the system is going to be different based on personality as well.
Yeah. It's a quick story here. My daughter threw a water balloon at my son on Saturday and just nailed him, just all over his back. I chuckled a little bit, and he wasn't really expecting it. He wasn't really like playing the game of it. So it just pissed him off. So he goes over and he grabs a brick and he starts chasing her. Yeah. So he's chasing her with this brick, and I'm watching it, and as he's chasing her with the brick, he keeps looking over at me like he knows
he can't do it.
He knows he can't go clobber her with the brick. He knows it. and so like the reason I'm telling you, if it was chaos, he could go hit her with that brick.
Yeah.
Why is he looking at me? He knows that there's going to be consequence. He's fine to be pissed off. Like in my family system, you can feel your emotions. That's fine. I'm not going to shut him down and say he's breaking the rules because he's angry. Right. But he's not okay to hit her with a brick. And so he's looking at me knowing, like Dad's not going to allow this. I'm just giving this as an example of how the systems come into place.
Yeah, and what you just described, Brannon, I'll just add another piece to that is that you described almost this last piece, the middle ground up between chaotic and middle is flexible, where you kind of let it play out, where you watched your son, you kind of watched him look at you, you kind of like let it go for a minute, even though you knew you were going to have to step in if he actually tried to do something. That would be more of a flexible kind of an approach, whereas the structured approach would have been seeing him grab the brick, going, "Hey, dude, I know you're really upset, but come on, like we're not going to go put the brick down. Like,
right.
Let's figure out a different way to manage your anger." Whereas, and the ridge would have been like, "You drop the brick right now. There's no way you can do that." And
go sit in the corner.
Yeah. And chaotic would have been like, "Well, boys will be boys. Like, yeah. Like, I guess we're heading to go get some stitches later on, like."
Right.
Yeah. Right, so you kind of get an idea of like the spectrum of that family system when it comes to adaptability.
Right. Should we shift over to cohesion?
Yeah. So then the other scale is the cohesion, which is how close or connected the family members are to one another. And at the extremes, the first one on the extreme level is called the enmeshed family system. And the enmeshed family system is where you know everybody else's stuff, they know your stuff. You basically do everything together. Your identity is wrapped up in being a blank, being a Patrick or being a Smith or being a whatever it is.
You're not an individual.
A lot of connection, lots and lots of connection. It's the kind of thing where, if I tell you something that happened to me today and I'm getting ready to call mom and dad later on, by the time I make the call to mom and dad, not only have they heard, but they've also called and told all the cousins and everybody else. And it's like information flows really quickly through a family system like that. And there's a lot of like,
yeah,
there's positives and negatives to it, where there's a lot of support, there's a lot of connection, there's a lot of identity found in the system itself, but then there's also difficulty being independent.
There's a lack of boundaries in a system like that. Things like emotions and spirituality and things like we're all supposed to think and feel the same thing, and we're all supposed to like be the same person. So tons of gossip, broken boundaries, talking about each other all day long, constant phone calls where you're on the phone with the family all the time. That's enmeshment. So it's a side note, it's really hard to be an in-law who marries into an enmeshed family, because you're supposed to just be part of the system now. And you're like, what? I'm an in-law. Like, sorry, I've never made this agreement to be exactly like all of you, you know.
Yeah.
Just a little side note there.
It's like that what's that clip where he like holds out his hands? He's like, he's just entering into a new system, like a new family. He's the inline. He's like, brothers got a hug, you know. And
yeah,
it's like, just gets
that's Tommy Boy.
Yeah, yeah.
Brothers got a hug.
Brothers got a hug, you know.
Yeah, and he's like, what?
Yeah.
All right. The other extreme is disconnected.
It's disengaged. Yep.
Disengaged. Yeah. Where there's just not connection. You know, each other are alive. Like, oh yeah, Tyler, my brother over there, like he does his thing.
You're just like roommates almost.
Yeah. Roommates. There's no emotional connection. You do your thing. I do my thing. Don't really check up on you. Don't really care that much.
Don't know about the comings and goings of your life.
It's a lack of connection in a family. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's the extreme. In between, let's go between enmeshed and the center is connected.
Yeah. And that's where there's still a prize. I would say the weight is still more towards being connected and being part of the community, but there's a value on also the individual being their own individual, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where between disconnected and the center is separated. So the ideal is that we're connected. I'm connected with you, Tyler. I care about your life. You can call me and I can empathize, but you know what? You can have your own thoughts, opinions, spirituality, feelings, because you're a separate human from me. So I love you. I connect to you. I'll hear you out. I'll be there for you. And I value you as an individual at the same time.
Yes.
That's the center.
That's center. That's connected. And then leaning on the other side of the center between disengaged and the center is something called separate, which is, I kind of like it, like liken it to this with like the choice of sports to play. You know, I tend to maybe want to play an individual sport like tennis or something like that because I want to stand on my own 2 feet, but then I have my family show up and support me. Right. That would be more of a separate kind of like thing. Whereas like the kind of connected version of that would be, I kind of choose to be part of the team. I play a team sport. I like it when my family shows up and they support me, but I don't necessarily need them to. I just like it when they do. The separate might not even have all their whole family show up. They might just check on them later at the end of the day or something.
Right. But they're still connected some.
But but there's still some level of connection. So it's just a matter of how much connection goes along with the individuality that puts you on one side of the center or the other. But either way, it's working towards the center.
Right. So with all these quadrants and things, you can mix all this stuff together. So you could be a rigidly enmeshed family, a rigidly connected, a rigidly separated, a rigidly disconnected. So you mix adaptability with cohesion. You can be a chaotically separated family, a chaotically enmeshed family. And I won't go through all of them, but you get the idea. If you look at your family system and you think, okay, when it comes to adaptability, where do we fall on that scale?
Yeah.
And, you know, you and I were kind of saying, well, you know, I'm probably between, and every parent wants to be somewhere in the middle. So
yeah, we all start with ourselves at the middle, and then we have
who
to
knows where we are actually,
where we're actually at.
I would say we're more on the flexible side with adaptability.
And we're probably more on the structured side as parents. Although our parenting has changed over the years, and my older kids complain like crazy, Dad, the younger kids don't even get raised in the same home I was raised in.
Yeah, and that's always how it goes.
Yeah.
Which is probably true, by the way. Your family system has probably shifted.
I think with my oldest, I was way out close to rigid, and then over the years we've kind of been drawn in closer to the middle of structured, to be honest with you.
Oh, interesting. Huh. Okay, so then you look at cohesion, and I'm just using our families as examples. I'd say we're pretty connected. I'd say I'd like to think we're not enmeshed. Our kids feel like they can. I actually, my son, I wanted him to play baseball this year. So I was like, hey, let's play baseball. No, Dad, I don't think I'm going to play. And to me, that showed that we're connected. I care about him, but he's also allowed to be himself. And for him to feel safe enough to tell me that was a good sign for me. I was happy about that.
Yeah.
So I'd say we're connected. We're not separate or disengaged. That's for sure. So,
yeah. And I think again, I probably lean a little bit closer to the separate side than in the middle than the connected side in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So it's funny. You're kind of the opposite quadrant as we are.
Mm-hmm.
If we could mix our parenting styles right in the middle, that would be awesome. So when we look at this, wherever you fall, like Tyler, in your experience, when we treat addiction or unhealthy relationships, what are some common family systems that people come from when they struggle with these attachment disorders like addiction and things like that?
What's interesting, there's actually has been some research on this when it comes to attachment theory that and addiction that says that when you look at about 2/3 of those who struggle with addiction will identify to having been raised in one of the outermost systems.
Yes.
Chaotic, rigid, enmeshed, or disengaged, or both, the combination of those things. And you can kind of start to see how that would start to form. I mean, let's just take an example of being raised in, let's say, a rigidly enmeshed family system. Lots of rules, lots of pressure to perform, lots of pressures to conform, not a lot of individuality, a hard time making decisions because the system makes it for you all the time.
Mom and dad hovering over you all the time.
A lot of pressure not to make mistakes. Yeah, don't want to let the family name down. Pressure. If you start to think about where shame works its way in and all of that pressure, it's going to find its way out. And one of those ways might be an addiction or other mental health issues. When you look at
Tyler, before you move on from that, so rigidly enmeshed, if I'm that child and I'm thinking, well, me who I am is not okay. I need to conform to that system. What that breeds is secrecy. It's, oh, I have sexuality, I have these things, but what I need to do is hide it because the rigid family system will reject me if I show it. And so then you learn how to be secretive because in your mesh family system, somebody's going to try to find out.
Yeah. Right, exactly. But then you have to perform to be able to fit in, and that's where that secrecy builds for sure.
Yep.
You look at something like, let's just say, let's go to the exact opposite end of the spectrum there, disengaged and chaotic. That quadrant, if it's way out on the edges on both of those, that's where you see a much higher prevalence of things like borderline personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, schizophrenia, bipolar, big significant mental health problems. Because, and you look at what's going on there, you've got neglect going on at the same time that there's this like kind of crazy making in terms of discipline and punishment. And human beings don't survive really well out there. And again, when I'm going through this stuff, Brannon, it doesn't mean if you're identifying as this, that's how it ends up. It means higher prevalence, right? People are resilient. People can still change. People can grow. We're just kind of giving some possibilities of how a child might experience that world.
But Tyler, the pornography that I saw when I was in high school and growing up, almost all the time was over at my friends' houses who came from a chaotically disengaged family. It was just like, that's where
anything went
and the kids just went wild. And so like, there wasn't any bit of structure there. And so what do you know? Things like porn and drugs and whatever could come through that house
pretty easily. It was like the place where it could flow through.
Yeah. Because there just wasn't any structure there.
Yeah. You get the rigidly disengaged child. They all of a sudden have a ton of pressure. I remember a kid in grade school, that was kind of from a family like this, where he got straight A's in school, but he would get done with school and he'd go home, and right when he got home, he would do homework for 4 hours, and then he'd basically go straight to bed. And so just like tons of like, he's going to learn how to toe the line, but he doesn't learn how to connect with people. He doesn't learn how to like talk the social language with people. And so you can see kind of how these things form as you're listening to this and you're starting to kind of plot, okay, what kind of home was I raised in? Start to consider what would have been the common feelings or thoughts that would have gone through me as a child, even though it was just what I experienced and I couldn't identify anything back then.
I'll tell you what, Tyler, if you want to instill a lot of shame into your child, then raise them in a rigidly disengaged family setting. I would say so many of the addicts that I've worked with came from that system, because you think about it. I don't really care about you. I care about the system. You can never earn my love. You can comply, but we're still disconnected. A child in that family system does not feel love at all. And that what they learn how to do is they learn how to go into compliance, and be a shell of themselves in order to survive. And what do you know? Porn or sex addiction or a drug or sugar or whatever comes along, and it's like, hey, I'll take care of you. I'll make you feel good, because you feel like garbage all the time because you don't get any love. So I'll make you feel good. And then they use that thing and they feel guilty because they're breaking the rigid family system. And so they hide, and it starts to perpetuate the problems.
Right. So, and as we go through all this, Brannon, even being more towards the middle doesn't exempt anybody from mental health problems or from addiction.
Of course.
Right. We all can still
That's
struggle with
point.
that, but we can still, that's why I always said this, I think the stats show about 2/3 of those with addictions identify as being on the outskirts of that, but there's still significant problems even as you move towards the middle for a lot of people.
I'm sure you've met with people who have said like, I don't know why I am the way I am. I had the best family.
Yeah. And a lot of times,
family.
This is a whole different topic, but a lot of times those people, they have kind of avoidant attachment styles, and the more avoidant the attachment style, a lot of times the more perfect their childhood.
I know. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So, So as we're going through this, so just to kind of bring this around for our listeners again, as you're plotting this, why does this matter? Well, it matters for a couple of reasons. One is maybe just coming to understand myself a little bit more and identify the way that I view the world and how I've maybe ascribed certain things as truth that maybe I can question as to whether or not I want to keep living that way. Certain rules I live by, certain beliefs about myself, certain beliefs about relationships. It could also help in the context of your own relationship with a significant other right now, where, if I were to plot the way that I was raised and match that up against the way that Rhiannon was raised, we would have been raised in some different systems, right? I think ours changed over time, but I relate to being raised sort of in kind of somewhere around the structured and enmeshed. And if I were to look at Rhiannon, I would say her family system growing up was a little bit maybe between flexible and chaotic, and a little bit on the separate side. And it's interesting that it's almost like we tried to balance each other out when we met each other. And not all the time, but a lot of times we're actually attracted to those things. I was attracted to her individuality, to her confidence, to her competence, right? She was attracted to my connection with the family. She was attracted to the community feeling. It was beyond her fathom that we loved hanging out with not just each other, but our cousins, right? Like she loved that part of it, and she was attracted to those things. And so it's not that they're weaknesses in any way. It's that we kind of are looking in some ways to almost like scratch the itch or meet the needs or fill the voids that maybe we didn't have to begin with.
That's interesting. You bring that up with our partners, where we try to meet those needs through our relationships. I think as adults, as we develop, as we grow up, we either start to become our parents, or we try to be the exact opposite of our parents. So we'll overcompensate. or we'll just do what we've learned.
Yeah.
And it's kind of tricky to be able to say, to get conscious of, okay, this is where I come from. This is what was healthy. This is what was unhealthy. This is what I want to keep. This is what I want to change, but I don't want to overcompensate.
It's hard.
I want to shift it just back right to this point. It takes a lot of introspection. It takes a lot of consciousness of where you come from and what you're doing as a parent. And it also, Tyler, it also takes a lot of self-compassion, forgiveness as a parent. We're talking about balancing kind of these things, and nobody gets it perfect. And every child needs a specific type of, like, one child might respond a little bit more to structure than flexibility, where another child might like connection better than separation, and vice versa. And so you can't be the perfect parent, and you can't balance this perfectly all the time.
Right. And if you treat your kids all the same, so to speak, even though that's the fair thing to do, because of the personality differences in each child, that may or may not be the most effective approach.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So it's there's
It's
no
tricky,
way to win.
It's
here.
a loaded game, basically.
Yeah. There's no way to win. But Tyler, I do think on those outer extremes, I think some people do give up. And I'm not saying, maybe they're on those extremes for a good reason, right?
Yeah.
But if you are on those extremes, you got to work on those things. If you have children, and if you're raising children, if you were raised on those extremes, you don't have to repeat those patterns again and again, and you can break those patterns.
And I think one of the reasons why we're talking about this is because the awareness of these things it's just like G.I. Joe. When we used to watch G.I. Joe, at the very end of every episode, they'd say, "Now you know." And then what would they say? "Knowing is half the battle." Right? Like, in some sense, like
G.I. Joe,
great American hero, right? Knowing is half the battle. And in some ways, coming to know these things actually empowers us to then become aware. I love what you were talking about earlier, Brannon. Awareness allows us to then be deciding beings again, instead of just automatically moving through without ever considering that there might be alternative ways of doing things, or thinking about things, or viewing things. And just knowing that there's alternatives, even if I choose the one I'm still going to live by, I'm still a deciding person at that point.
Yes.
Right?
I'm a deciding person, rather than just unconsciously letting all this stuff just happen.
Yeah.
So, Tyler, this has been a good discussion.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what people think of it, and see how you relate to it. So please shoot us some comments or some feedback if you have it. And
Tyler, do you know? I don't know. Do you know who developed the circumplex model?
You know what?
I might have to give that a goog, because me and Tyler did not develop this. Somebody did, and I'd like to give him credit.
Very long time. Let me see.
Yeah. But it's been around a long time. I think that's why we don't really have a source on this. It's kind of basic family systems.
Yeah. We
should have had this ready before.
We need like one of those guys like Jamie on the Joe Rogan show that just fact checks us the whole time. So it looks like Dr. David Olson designed the system in the late 20th century. Yeah.
Yep. Olson.
So yeah.
We found it. Good job, David. Thank you.
Yeah,
we're still using your work. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. And thank you to you guys who are listening. We appreciate you being here with us.
All right. We'll see you later.